Hey everyone, here on Instagram. We're getting ready to go live on Facebook, just checking in. I've got Bethany here. She's going to talk about her services and how you can connect with her. So give us about one more second here. Make sure that everything goes well with getting connected on Facebook. There we go. And we're going to get started in 3, 2, 1. There we go. Hey, Bethany, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to be able to talk about, finance. It's such a big thing for most people, but I think it's an intimidating, scary thing too, because it's not something that we're taught in school. We don't go through these, how to do taxes, how to write out a check. These are things that people get, to adulthood and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes. So thank you for just being here, for being willing to share what your services are and how people can connect with you, but also provide insight and suggestions that, practical for everyday people like myself, or, people that are out there looking for a way to, step into this finance area that you work in.
Absolutely.
So go ahead. Let's start with, tell me about you. How did you get started in all of this?
So I moved to Missouri, originally Mountain Grove, so about 60 miles east of the Springfield area, after I met my husband. So that's kind of a funny story. We met on Match.com.
Oh.
Seems like forever ago now. So we've been together about 11 and a half years. And that was right before catfishing became like a real big thing. So like the documentary movie and then the MTV TV show came out right after I had actually moved in with him, and, we were getting serious and everything. So we were both kind of like, this could have played out totally different and been absolutely terrible, because one of the first episodes was a girl from Northwest Arkansas, which is where I was from.
Oh my goodness.
And so I'm just seeing myself, watching that episode. So it's just kind of funny. But so I moved to Mountain Grove, moved in with him while we were engaged, planning our wedding and everything. And I worked in jewelry at the time, which was awesome. It was really fun. I enjoyed it. I still have a love for jewelry. So if anybody needs, any tips on that, I'm happy to be your shopping buddy. But I transferred to a store. They had a store in Springfield. So I was driving an hour each way back and forth. Gas was really high back then. That was back in 2011. So gas prices were close to what they are now. So it was expensive. It was exhausting. And so when opening at a local bank in Kabul, anybody that's familiar with that area, Kabul, Missouri, there were 2 banks at the time, Kabul State Bank and Landmark Bank. And I started at Landmark Bank as a teller. Sadly, they are no longer in existence. They got bought out by Simmons. Probably about 2 or 3 years ago. But they were a wonderful family-owned bank to work for. And I learned so much while I was there, because it was such a small branch that we got to do a lot of cross-training. And so that's kind of where I discovered my love for all things finance, because being a teller, doing those transactions was wonderful. But then I started opening new accounts for people, learning about business accounts, how all of that functions, doing things like small personal loans and small auto loans. So I was able to do most things that people just walked in needing to do. And so that was such a wonderful learning experience. I'll always be grateful to Landmark Bank and the Landrum family, because the owner, such a cool dude. He would come in overalls and a t-shirt.
Oh my goodness.
He's got how much money, and he would come and visit the branches and he would talk to everybody. He didn't care what your position was. He treated everybody the same, and he was just an awesome dude. We were very sad when he passed. But that was just a really, I think, a lucky first step into finance and banking, because not everybody has that awesome first experience, to be somewhere for a couple of years and be able to do all of those different things. So I think that really kind of shaped the love for what I do first and foremost.
So that's really cool that you met your husband on a dating site and then moved. moved to Missouri
Mhm.
and had this kind of this inspiration, this opportunity to start something fresh and new. And then now you're here.
Yes.
So talk about that. How did you get here?
Okay, so I have been in banking since 2011. I did take a few months off and worked at an insurance agency, but it was State Farm and they still do a lot of banking stuff. So I was still doing loans and I was still doing things like that.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it, then I was doing some life insurance and property and casualty. I got my insurance license. Those tests are killer. Anybody who has ever done that, props to you. That is not an easy test to pass.
Yeah.
But that really solidified, okay, I like the banking aspect of what we're doing. I do love the insurance aspect. It's good knowledge to have, and it still serves me to this day. But I didn't love it. And so when another opportunity at a bank in Mountain Grove opened, I took it, started part-time, did that for a couple of months, and then immediately started moving up into a full-time position. And that's really where I learned a lot of the operations side. I helped with a lot of the loan paperwork, doing some back-end stuff, compliance, and kind of the ins and outs. And so I really enjoyed what I did there, but then we moved to Springfield. And so my husband was buying a business. We were trying to buy a house, and I needed to find a job up here. So it was a little bit of a stressful time. And that was back in 2015. So it was summer 2015, and I got a job at Central Bank, which is still a wonderful bank. I still use them for a lot of different things. They have a lot of our business accounts, auto loans. That's a great place to get auto loans from, in case anybody needs to know that. I would check with them, and I would also check with local credit unions as far as rates and terms. They're probably going to be your most competitive. So those are just, those little tidbits good to know.
Yes.
And it was phenomenal. They are a wonderful employer, a wonderful bank. I did some operations there. I was a commercial loan assistant. And then I was approached by somebody at Legacy Bank. And that's where I got my first lending opportunity. And so I moved over there in 2017. And that was a wonderful opportunity because being a small bank, you're kind of doing a little bit of everything. So I got to do auto loans and small personal loans like I've done in the past. But I got to really learn about commercial, mortgage, and even yachts.
Okay.
Sometimes you have those, oddball loan requests. Obviously the boat's not going to be docked here locally. Those are registered with the Coast Guard. It's kind of an interesting deal to go through just from learning experience. But that's really where I got a lot of my lending experience and where I really learned how much I enjoyed the mortgage aspect, being able to help people, find that dream home, find the right type of loan program. If they're not quite where they need to be, help them get there so they're ready to buy. Or some people who didn't think they were there, help them discover actually you are in a better position than you realized because of this, and this. So, because that's such an intimidating process. And even people who have bought and sold in the past because of all of the regulation and changes after 2008, it's very much a different process these days. So it's just a lot. It can be cumbersome, the paperwork and all of the ins and outs of it. But that's what I learned that I enjoyed. I like helping people learn this process, making sure they understand it, making sure there's no surprises or issues that crop up unexpectedly. And so that's really where I fell in love with mortgage. And I've been doing it ever since. I did it for a short while at Regions Bank. They had some wonderful loan programs. A lot of banks have actually adopted some of those loan programs. And so they are phenomenal for first-time home buyers, people with limited down payment funds. A lot of the banks in the areas do have wonderful programs for people in those types of situations. But I chose to move over to CMG, where I am now. We are CMG Financial as like a broad umbrella, but they are working on rebranding our retail department into CMG Home Loan. So it's very clear what we do, because financial is kind of a broad word. Do we do stuff like Edward Jones? Are we more like a bank? So we are a mortgage company. We are mostly doing home loans for people's primary residences, but we do have a lot of programs for people looking to get into investment if they want to be a landlord and have rental properties, whether it's traditional or short term like the Airbnbs. There's a lot of different options and things that work for people, depending on kind of what their goals are, short term and long term.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So, one of the things that when I am working with a client, whenever we first sit down to do an assessment, we go over several areas of their life. And one of those happens to be their finances, looking at kind of a high level overview. And then, if it's something that they really want to concentrate on, we look at, is it something where they have a dream of buying a home or paying off debt or, working on selling their cars so that they can get more dependable transportation, those kinds of things. Which is why whenever you mentioned that you were doing, you work with mortgages, I thought this would be a great opportunity for us to connect and share, so that people can really get a good solid idea of what you do, the services that you provide, but also some good solid foundation of how it works, so that they aren't so intimidated, so that they aren't so scared of taking that step, because it can be a very arduous process. We all know that.
Yes.
But also just having conflicting information out there. One company does this or one company does that, and really just kind of bringing it home and saying, this is the core basics. And that, it's not impossible.
Right.
And that's what I'm a dreamer. So I always want my clients to feel like they can dream and they can really open up their mind to that possibility, that mind shift of, going from I'll never have this to it's right in front of me. And so as you were talking about all of the experience that you've had, leading up to this, it's like, you really know your stuff. You really know what's going on in the back end. You really know how to help your clients get to where they need to be. And so I think that that's valuable, for clients, current clients and even future clients to know that that you're working for a reputable company and that you are providing solid information. And so, thank you for really sharing the backstory, to just really reaffirm who you are, how you got into all of this, and now being able to share that with others. So thank you for sharing that. I would love to hear maybe what are a couple of special programs that you guys have or that you offer that maybe people don't know about or that you think they should know about going forward.
I think from especially kind of the first time home buyer, people who are maybe in a rental situation and struggle to save money for down payment, because let's be honest, with inflation, the cost of everything continuing to go up, that's probably the last thing you have money to set aside for, because you've got car repairs, you've got your regular groceries and all of that. By the time it's all said and done, your paycheck is spent, especially with rent being what it is. So that's a big struggle that we see in a lot of people in this area. That's their thing is, I'd love to buy a house, but I don't have down payment money. Well, there's a couple of good options. There are low down payment programs. Obviously, I think most people are familiar with FHA that does a 3.5% down payment. It does have some lower credit score requirements as well. That doesn't mean that anybody can get it, but it's a little bit easier to get into. I feel like the biggest downside with that is you are paying the private mortgage insurance. And what that is anytime you put down less than 20% of the down payment on your home purchase, the private mortgage insurance is kind of acts almost like a gap insurance, like on an auto loan. So if you were to default on that insurance would kick in and cover that default essentially. So you see that on many loan types. A lot of them, it falls off once you get to that loan to value of the 80%. On an FHA loan, it does not. You have to pay to refinance to be able to get rid of that mortgage insurance. So that's a good thing to know. So it's not a bad loan. And if it gets you into a house and that's your best option, it's not a bad loan to get into. Just know that sooner or later you are going to need to refinance to be able to get rid of that mortgage insurance. And, just to put that in perspective, people a couple of years ago and their homes appreciated, they've probably been able to refinance sooner than they thought and be in the equity position, have that 20% equity and be able to get that removed. So, I mean, that's why it's not a bad loan. There's just, a few caveats and things to know about it. On the conventional front, like the Freddie Mac and the Fannie Mae, they've got 3% and 5% down options. So, I mean, there's still some good options there for people who have a little bit down, but maybe not a full, 10, 15, 20%. And then what we have that we can kind of partner with some of these low down payment loan programs is what we call home funded. And I hate to compare it to GoFundMe, but I mean, people are familiar with that platform and they know how it works.
Yes.
So you get a web page dedicated to your home funded. And so it's a down payment crowdfunding platform that ties directly to our company. And so the nice thing about that is people can go on and make a donation towards your down payment. I mean, it could be $5, $500, $5,000, whatever they're willing to give. And what's so wonderful about that is because gift funds and mortgage can be a really tricky thing. Certain loan types only allow gift funds from certain people. And on this, we're not limited to who can gift you those funds. And also we are able to just take that ledger where they have done a little bit online, filled out, their card information, name, and a little bit of contact information. We can download that little register. That's all the paperwork we need. We're not having to do all of these gift letters. We're not having to do all of this extraneous paperwork because that's what turns people off. That's what people don't want to do is, grandma, grandpa, we need bank statements. We need this, we need that. Well, I don't want to give them that. We know you don't. We don't want to ask for it. So this is a wonderful way that we can make this easy and accessible for people. And that's all that's required of them. So if they're willing to donate for your down payment and your closing costs, this is a wonderful way for them to do it. What I also like is you can get some matching funds from our company, also by doing some online borrow smart training is what they call it. And so it's just a little course for first-time home buyers to go over some ins and outs and things like that. You pass that course, you can get additional funds deposited into your account. And then shopping. Everybody online shops these days. So part of what you get for your online platform and page is shopping links. So people who are going to be shopping from certain retailers anyways, if they go through your link, then you can get a certain percentage cash back from each purchase that they make. So you've got so many different ways to get money built up. And especially people who go ahead and plan this a little bit in advance. When birthday rolls around, when Christmas rolls around, when they graduate, whatever the case may be, you can direct people, hey, instead of giving me money in a card, just go to my site and go ahead and gift whatever you would there. And you can just let that money sit there and collect. So
that is so cool. I think that is so cool because as someone that is such a proponent of community and, working together and just knowing that is available, that is awesome. And it sounds like it's a program that isn't widely known about because I certainly didn't know about it.
Right. Well, so we are, obviously trying to get the word out there because it's great because people who maybe have been priced out of purchasing in the past, with a little bit more down payment funds or something might put them back into the buying market. Because I know it's been a struggle here lately with interest rates going up and everything. I watched some video testimonials on the Home Funded today, and it's heartwarming to watch these people be so happy and so thankful. Like there was one guy, he raised $5,000 in 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
And then there was somebody who she was talking about a family from I think a camp that she worked at like as a teenager years ago, donated like a pretty good chunk of change. And so she's like, for one, it's, made me feel warm and fuzzy that these people cared enough, to donate to my cause. But she's like, it just kind of reinforced those longstanding relationships, even somebody you haven't talked to in a long time. So just watching those testimonials, I was like, this works. It really does.
And, it puts it right into the investment of the home, and allowing people to help with that, just offering even just a little bit or, however much to.
If you
to
know
help that.
100 people that will give you $5, I mean, that adds up.
Yes, absolutely. That is so cool. Thank you for sharing that. And so with this particular program, that's not widely known about, are there other things that maybe people could learn?
I think the other main one, and this is definitely geared more towards a seasoned homeowner or an investor possibly, but is our all-in-one, and it is what you would consider an offset mortgage. So instead of just having like a 30-year fixed rate where your principal and interest and your escrow payment usually remains close to the same, depending on your taxes and insurance, when that changes, obviously.
Yeah.
And so you're just paying a set payment on the first of every month. And eventually your principal balance goes down. But let's be honest, the first almost 10 years of a mortgage, so much of your money is going towards the interest payment. And that's just how it goes when you're on a 30-year repayment. So what the all-in-one does is it takes the traditional loan type and kind of turns it on its head. So you've got whatever your mortgage is, so say $250,000 is what you have left on your home loan. So we would take that balance and turn it into essentially a giant home equity line of credit. So it acts as a revolving line of credit instead of just this stagnant loan. And then it's tied to a checking account. And so what happens is as your paychecks come in, any deposits, any money you've got coming in comes into your checking account at midnight every night. Whatever money is left sitting in that account, it's going to sweep over and pay down the principal balance on this mortgage. And then whenever you have bills due, your car payments due, your credit card or whatever, it's going to come up and sweep over just enough to cover those bills. Next paycheck comes in, you pay a couple of things, you still got some money sitting in your account, it sweeps over, pays it down a little bit more. So it's saving you a lot of interest by paying down the principal balance on a daily basis like that, because most people have money probably sitting in a money market or a savings account or a CD, whatever, somewhere that's not making any interest right now. So this is a better use of your funds to pay your mortgage off that much faster. There is a wonderful website. You can just Google all-in-one loan and it'll take you to the website. And there's a calculator. And so you can put in your traditional loan terms and do a side-by-side comparison. You can do just a general percentage for your in and out to calculate, or if you really know exactly how much you have coming in, exactly how much you have going out, you can do the advanced calculator. But for the most part, most people will pay their loan off in less than half the time and probably save, it could be $100,000 in interest over the life of the loan by paying it off that much quicker. I think our personal payoff ends up being about 7.5 years. So we're actually about to start the refinance process into the all-in-one loan.
Yeah, that's so cool. And, it still enables the consumer, the client, to have control over their money.
Absolutely.
And, the investment back into their home. I feel like that is such a great benefit.
You build that equity so much faster, and then those funds are available if there is an emergency, or if you want to do a remodel, travel the world, whatever the case may be. And so we've got a lot of different versions of this loan depending on the ins and outs and what fits you best. And there are 2 versions that allow for an investment property. So if you have a rental or like an Airbnb, you could do a line of credit on something like that. And especially with an Airbnb where you've got monthly deposits coming in, you could just kind of tie them together, let it pay itself down. And then once you've got enough equity built back up, you could probably go buy another property and be a cash buyer. As an investor, this is a really smart tool that you could utilize.
That's so cool. I feel like I just went to school.
Hopefully it's not too boring, but I find it interesting because these are just unique tools. And honestly, this type of mortgage, this offset mortgage, is pretty popular in other countries. You just don't really hear about it here in the United States, but it's been widely used a lot of places for quite a while. And we've had this program for, I believe it's going on 15 years, and they've never had anybody default on it.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, obviously it works.
It's successful.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's really cool. I would love to know how people connect with you. You know, how do they find you? Because I didn't even know anything about your company before meeting you.
And that's what I'm trying to do, is get the word out here. I am the first loan officer in the Springfield market. So I'm really just trying to, get the word out there about some of these unique programs, because I feel like they're beneficial for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I've got a business Facebook page under CMG Financial and Bethany Cunningham. Or you can search at Missouri Home Loan Lady.
Okay. Okay.
Is the tag that I tied to it.
Okay.
So I figured that was somewhat easy to remember, because my name's spelled a little bit different, so people may not find it.
Yeah.
And then I've got a personal Facebook page. People are always welcome to reach out on my personal page. And then I do a lot of my business on my cell phone. So my cell phone number is 417-259-9871. And so people can text me, they can call me. We do have a lot of technology available to us through my company. So you can do the loan application process on your phone with an app. So, I mean, that's pretty easy to do. So a lot of people will, text me questions, and because that's easier during the workday than pick up and have a long, lengthy conversation. So sometimes when it's just little things here and there, text and email are easier. But I'm, whatever works for them, communication wise, I'm happy to do.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you shared that, so that people can reach you directly. Do you feel like you have, how long have you been here in Springfield, did you say?
We moved up here in 2015.
Okay. And do you feel like, since you have begun this process with CMG, that you have kind of gained a good foundation for clientele here in Springfield?
I mean, it's been a little bit of a struggle, just because it is a little bit newer name. They're not new, but they're based out of California, and they're in many states, but they've never had a loan officer really in this market.
Gotcha.
So I think that's been the biggest struggle. It's just kind of getting some name recognition. And then, those proprietary loan programs that are unique to us, that I feel like are probably some of the most beneficial things that we have to offer. Just getting the information out there. So, I mean, I've got a lot of real estate agents that I've done business with that are phenomenal. But I mean, there are a lot of lenders in the area. So, I mean, it's not an easy business to compete in right now.
Right. But do you feel like, well, it sounds like to me that the company has so much value.
Oh, yes.
And really almost like you're just starting to tap into the market. So,
so I feel like we've got a lot of growth available.
Yes, absolutely.
But that's kind of what I'm trying to build.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, how big is your company? Do you know?
Oh gosh. So it is. So it's funny. A lot of your companies, you've got, this big board of probably old bald men. Let's be honest. That make up a lot of boards for a lot of companies.
Yes.
So we are actually owned by one dude. So CMG actually stands for Chris M. George. And so he's been in the industry pretty much his entire life, but he started this company about 30 years ago, and has done so well with it that we have a lot of things available to us that companies in similar sizes just don't, because a lot of the things that we offer, we're able to do things in-house, whereas everybody else sells off everything that they do, where we do a lot of our own servicing. So, I mean, from an asset standpoint, I honestly don't know where we're at right now, because we've had significant growth this year. I'd actually have to look to see exactly where we stand. But we've got lenders in all 50 states. And then I'm currently only licensed for Missouri Missouri and Arkansas. But if the need were to arise for, some neighboring states of Kansas, Oklahoma, things like that, that's always something I could look to in the future. But we pay for those, so it doesn't necessarily make sense to be licensed everywhere if we're not doing business there.
Right. Yeah. But it's also good for, for viewers and potential clients to also know that you have agents, financial people to reach out to in all 50 states.
Yes.
That it's a solid company. They provide reputable products and service, and that they've been around for quite a while. So it's not likely to disappear tomorrow.
Yeah, we're not doing business out of somebody's garage as of last Tuesday.
Right. Yeah. And that, that again, that financial aspect of things, people really struggle because it's their money. It's their, their livelihood on the line whenever they're trying to work with someone, connecting with the right person and making sure that it's the best product for their needs. Which is, again, one of the reasons that I thought that you would be a great you have great services to offer, and it's a great opportunity to share with other people. So, yeah.
Well, and one thing I will say is, because I have been at, a handful of different financial institutions, I have a lot of really good connections with lenders at different banks, different mortgage companies. So the nice thing is because of the relationships that we have, if there's something that I can't do, or I know somebody has something that can do it better, I know where to send them. I have this wonderful referral network of other lenders, because we're all in the same mindset of, I'm not going to do a loan just for the sake of doing it. I'm going to make sure that it's the best fit for that person.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that may not be me, but the good news is I probably know who it is, and I can send them directly to a good reputable lender for whatever that loan program is.
And that's a good point to bring up, because, every person's situation is different. And for you to just state, out front and forwardly that you may not have all the solutions, but you're willing to, go out on a limb and refer someone to someone that someone that does provide that service, or, to solidify that you are focusing on what you know and what you can do, and building that trust and that relationship with people. That's definitely what everyone is looking for. I think in today's society, we sometimes miss the mark.
Well, and you would hope that everybody does business that way, but unfortunately that's not the case. But all of the people that I've, kind of built out in this referral, circle with other lenders and getting familiar with their products. So I know the ins and outs, because I can even kind of help vet some stuff of, okay, they can do it, but you need to do this, this, and this to get you there. One thing I do want to touch on real quick, just because it's a really big part of finance as a whole, whether you're buying a house, a car, opening a credit card, is credit. It's one of those things that it's difficult to understand. There's so many different types of credit scores out there, and it can be really intimidating if you either have credit that you're trying to build up, or just have limited credit and you're like, I need to get these scores built out and I don't even know how to do it. So just a couple things to keep in mind. Any accounts that you have open, obviously making extra payments, paying off early is typically not a bad thing, but especially for younger people who have limited credit history, I would say don't pay anything off too early, because you want to have 12 months of reported payments. Anything shorter than that typically is going to be an issue when you go to try to borrow more money, especially on the home front. So when we do mortgages, we pull Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. So we pull all three of those scores for everybody who's going to be a borrower on the loan. And then we go by the middle low score. So if we have two co-borrowers, and for whatever reason, his score is normally higher, don't even get me started on
we
that.
won't go there right now.
But and so we'll look at the middle scores, and whoever is lower is actually going to be our qualifying score. So it's kind of an average of things there. So for instance, if you have a 700, a 680, and a 660, the 680 would be our qualifying score. But one nice thing that we do have at my company in particular, I know that some places offer, credit repair and things like that. But what we have available to us is whenever we pull a credit report, it'll actually show us if there's any quick things that can be done. And then request a rescore that'll boost your score.
Oh.
And so it could just be as simple as paying down a credit card balance by a couple $100. So, I mean, that's one of those things that I always go over it with my borrowers. If it's something that's feasible and it makes sense and we can get it done pretty quick, then let's do it.
Yeah.
If we can boost the score up 20 points. So if we go from a 680 in our mid score to a 700, that's going to get us a better interest rate that could get us into new programs. There's a lot of different things that a higher credit score can do for us on the mortgage front, but that's just borrowing money as a whole. The higher your score, typically, the less your interest rate and things like that are going to be your fees. There's a lot of things that factor into that. And so that's a really important aspect of borrowing money, but I know it's intimidating for people. And honestly, I don't know that anybody truly understands it 100%. If they tell you that, I think they're lying. But those of us in the industry do know a good amount. And if there is something that you're struggling with and it's not something that we can help you with, then there are people who do credit repair and do specific things like that. A lot of them have consulted with attorneys and know how to fix things. Because just because you paid off that medical collection, it's probably still sitting out there on your report. So getting it removed is what benefits you. So there's people that can help with things like that. That's a little bit outside of what I can do. But it's good to know that these tools are available to you if they're needed.
Yeah. And that's good. It's an added benefit to the services that you're providing already. So
I love it. I've already done it a handful of times and it's wonderful to see, that score jump up and put us into a better interest rate bracket and more programs become available. That's just, that's a win-win.
Yes, absolutely. And it reaffirms that the products and services that you're already providing are just being enhanced and really driving home that point of investing in their own future, using those services.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, is there anything else that you would like to share or
I could talk about everything forever, so probably not.
Well, I feel like we covered some good ground here, some basics. I definitely want to make sure that you share your contact information again. And I'll also link her information in the post.
I've got my card. I don't know if I can get it close enough for it to be legible, but
yeah, we'll definitely get that out. And then I definitely want clients and viewers to reach out, if they have questions or, anything. Yeah. If you can see that, it's kind of bright in here.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's my face and my name.
So,
so my cell phone, which I typically do most of my work off of, is 417-259-9871. And then my email is just bcunningham@cmgfi.com.
Okay.
So just a lot of letters there.
Okay. Well, I will also link all of that into the post itself. That way, people can see that. And then, hopefully people will reach out to you and ask questions.
Yeah. And even if they're, not ready to do something and they just have general questions, I'm happy to be that person.
Yeah.
Because everybody needs somebody that they can ask questions of. So, if somebody's like, hey, I want to buy in 5 years. Okay, cool. There's probably still things you could do now to get ready. Yeah. And if you just have questions, I'm here for that.
Yeah. Well, that's good because I know I have clients that are like, well, I want to buy a house tomorrow, but it's probably not going to happen tomorrow. It's probably going to happen in 5 years, but that's okay. Everybody's going to start somewhere.
Have a game plan. That's the biggest thing is have a game plan, know that you're making the right moves to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, I think that's all I've got for today. I I've already said this like 5 times, but I'll make sure to put all of her information in there. And then if anyone has any questions, definitely reach out to her directly. And I think that's about it. I think that's all I've got. So thank you so much again.
Thank you
for being here. And for everyone watching on these lives, thank you so much for watching and listening in. Stay tuned this coming week. I've got a couple more interviews, co-hosts to sit down with, and we're going to talk about some really powerful stuff. Until then, we'll see you later.